roll by. Overhead, flamingos paint the sky. Goodbye, my friend, it's been heaven knowing you. Breathing on this cheap train, waiting for a cloud to break. Dark roads at night in a world we don't know. Crickets shake and hope to take us home. Dreaming on a steam train, waiting on a slow exhale. Dreaming on a steam train, on this cool autumn day. Whoa, goodbye, my friend, on this slow exhale. Watching all our landscape, willing it to melt away. Hotels and cars and salty seas, shoes and boots and boats to make us go. Dreaming on a steam train, waiting on a slow exhale. Dreaming on a steam train, on this cool autumn day. Goodbye, my friend, it's been sunlight seeing you. Gathering our notebooks, pages torn onto the wind. Colors of strings and golden leaves, moods and doubts and clouds like giddy thieves.
Okay, that was beautiful. That was a piece from Liv Monaghan, who I'm just taking a second to get her located in this chat. Will be 1 second.
There are daisies pouring from great clouds over green parks in scraping skies. You're a lump in my throat and a weight in my gut. You wouldn't leave, so you stay. Lie back and watch me swim against currents. I'll wear the bathing suit bought for good weather, and you'll sit back and watch me drown from a bed of fluffy lilac heather.
I'm just hoping between
This
screens
draws me,
getting Liv
this lost
locked in.
distances draws me
How are you
into
doing today?
charcoal princesses. You're the garden's rambling rose. Thorns tear threads in my clothes. Duck down pillows for another. Lie back and watch me swim against currents. I'll wear the bathing suit bought for good weather, and you sit back and watch me drown from the bed of fluffy lilac heather. Lie back, watch me swim out sea lines and trout as I splash about in the bathing suit made for good weather. Watch me drown and watch the bathing suit made for good weather. Watch me drown. Watch the bathing, watch the bathing suit made for good, good weather, made for good. Watch me drown and watch me drown and watch in the bathing suit made for good weather, good.
There we go. So Liv, I'm sorry that that was completely my fault. I didn't send you the correct link or any link at all. So I had to dig around and get it to you. But so we were just able to listen to Slow Exhale and to Ocean Blues just now. What a treat. What great songs.
Thanks, Hannah.
Yeah. Well, so welcome to my little chat. So I just want to say, so I've done this chat 3 times now, and I think I was telling you earlier today, sort of in the whole sort of lockdown season, it's been an opportunity for me to like reach out and have conversations and sort of give me an activity. And so earlier this week, I had scheduled a friend and colleague of mine from Chicago, Kathy Greenhalgh, to join us at 2 p.m. her time, 8 p.m. my time, and she's going to join me again next week. But when I spoke to you today, Liv, and I realized we're both here,
Yeah,
in our first day of lockdown, that it was going to be 8 p.m. and so it actually is a good time for a drink. So I have a glass of wine right here. Did you pour yourself a drink? No.
I'm on slightly stronger stuff than you, I think, Hannah. But
cheers.
cheers.
So we're both Liv is in Paris, I'm outside of Paris, and we started our lockdown today for the next month. So how are you?
I mean, it's not great, is it? I'm not a big fan of the lockdowns. Like I think some people find that maybe they can be conducive to creativity and stuff, but yeah, I really find them tough. So I'm not looking forward to this one, especially in the winter. I don't know how you feel about that, Hannah, but not loving these long nights and, you know, a curfew and a lockdown. It's hard, no?
Yeah, definitely, with these short, dark days. But my understanding was this lockdown was going to be 30 days, but maybe that's just 30 days for now, and they'll just extend it.
To be honest, I think they'll probably extend it. I don't see it being just like finished on the 1st of December. I mean, look, none of us know anything really, do we? But just judging on the last time round, I think, how long were we locked down for? Was it 7 weeks in total?
7 weeks, yeah.
I mean, I think it would be wonderful if they could open some shops up again, but I don't see them going full opening of the restaurants and the bars. Like, that might be pessimistic, but I think it's probably realistic. I don't know. What do you think?
So just like you, I have no idea. I guess I tend to be relatively optimistic about most things, and I'm always shocked when things don't turn out the way I thought they were going to. And I think you're probably right. We're going to be in this for a while, and probably just until something runs its course. I don't know. But
yeah.
So you're in Paris. So today, the first day of the lockdown, what's the vibe there? Did you go outside?
Yeah, because you're not in Paris, like exactly in Paris. It's I did go out. I went out for my like hour run. It for me it felt really hard again, like printing off the attestation. They're the permit forms for going out. I know you can download it to your phone, but I just like printed off a few.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that kind of, I don't know, I felt like, oh no, this is like, one step forward, two steps back. I can't believe we're here again.
Yeah.
Didn't love that. I had a little bit of, I had a little bit of a weep actually on my hour out, because I was like, I can't believe that this is happening again, and it's dark and it's cold. And I think, when things repeat themselves as well, you sort of think, what did I do the first time round? And I think I'm trying to draw circles between, like, have I learned anything between last lockdown and this one?
Yeah.
And look, it's Halloween. There's weird energy out there anyway, but yeah, not feeling great now, I have to say. And the energy, sorry, Hannah, the energy on the street, it feels a little bit more fluid than last time, but it's very quiet. It's the same thing. I mean, last night in Paris, the traffic jams of people getting out does nothing for one's anxiety either. Everyone was just like, I'm getting out of here. And the like, I live in Montmartre, and like the huge traffic jams were nuts. Yeah.
Wow. So that's Paris today. So before all of this started, what was your life in Paris like? Tell us about your
Before COVID. Well, yeah, I've been living here for like a good few years now, and like Paris is great when it works, like all the big cities. And I suppose like yourself as well, we're attracted to these big cities because we're musicians, and there are some places to play that are nice. There are some less nice places to play, but it's generally speaking, it's a happening like city.
Yeah.
So I had a great time and played in a lot of places, and did a lot of lovely little private gigs as well. Actually, I love that about France, the way they're very open to kind of doing little concert en appartement, like the little like small gigs and birthday parties and that kind of thing. Like I really I was kept pretty busy. Unfortunately, my other little bit of work I used to do was a little bit in the tourist industry. I used to give jazz club tours. Of course, that's gone as well. It's like how pick industries that are going to get torn apart. But yeah, it was great, and it's such a dynamic city. Like it's very inspiring in that way, and you know yourself, like just meeting people all the time from all walks of life was fantastic pre-COVID, and then obviously now it's a different place. Yeah.
Something you just said reminds me of, so I moved to Paris from Chicago, and when I was in Chicago, I was playing in bands and playing out in the Chicago scene for years, for the whole time that I lived there. And it's a great city for music, but it's definitely like a drinking, talking music scene, whether you're in a bar or a club or a venue, whatever. But in Paris, in France, they listen to music. They come out to listen. And so you can, when you start to play, generally people will like quiet down and listen to you. And I've played in Paris in so many different kinds of venues, like theaters and little bars and big bars and music venues and all sorts of things. And I really, really appreciate that people expect other people to be quiet to listen to you. Do you find that, or with me comparing to Chicago?
No, you're right. I think that the public is generally speaking really good here. That's true. Like they do give you a lot of space, like to perform, and like they listen. But I suppose, like coming from Ireland as well, like it would be a bit more similar to your experience in Chicago. Like you definitely have rowdier crowds, and I think it depends on the space you're playing in as well. Like for example, like here, there's definitely more of that little cabaret culture, and people sitting down, having their glass of wine and listening and watching. Whereas like, in Irish culture and American culture, it's more about creating that ambience that's already kind of amplified. So, it's a different sound. It's a different thing that's created. But I really do agree with you. But I don't know if I would say that the French are the best public in the world. Like I think it's funny. I think Americans have better ears. I think the Irish do too, actually. Like, I just think that there's probably more of a culture of that kind of amateur music in our backgrounds, right? And that makes people a bit more, they have more discerning ears, I find, actually.
For sure, there's a different relationship to the arts in general, of people getting up and making things and doing it. I mean, I've played in so many gigs where every single person in the audience was also in a band. Where you're also, you know, you just happen to be the band on stage. But definitely, I think that there's more of a sense that art and music is for everybody, and that you don't have to be highly trained, that you have to, it's more welcoming. I don't even have too many complex thoughts about that, but it is definitely a different culture here. So you were in Ireland before you came to France?
Yes, I was. Yeah, I was in Ireland before I came here, but then when I actually came here, I sort of tripped back and forth to different places. I spent a little bit of time in New York, in London, back to Ireland as well, and Barcelona. So I kind of it's great in Europe as well, though you can flash around like that. But I really enjoyed the brief stint in the US as well, from a musical perspective, actually. It was great. Yeah, it was great.
So you were sort of on your journey, and then you sort of planted here for a while.
Yeah. I mean, you're the same though, aren't you, Hannah? Like you've also had a similar experience.
So I definitely moved around for a while, also in Spain, but I was in San Sebastian, not so smaller town than Barcelona. But so yeah, I moved around a lot, and I was in sort of Europe, and then I would come back to the US and try to set up camp, and then I would think, no, can't, and I'd go back. So I went back and forth a few times, and then I landed in Chicago and stayed there for quite some time. And so, and then from Chicago, I moved here. But I feel like I'm here for the long haul.
Yeah.
I may go back and forth in different versions, but I'm definitely quite settled here. I really love France.
Yeah, it's a wonderful country. There's a lot on offer, you know. I don't know if I'm settled here though, to be honest. Like, I've been here quite a while, and it's brought really wonderful gifts, and in all senses, you know, from friendships to experiences to, you know, the whole music thing was really, I think, for me, nurtured here. But I don't know. I still feel like I have other places to get to and root out. I miss Irish culture a lot sometimes. I don't know how you feel about that, because it's so different. You know, it's so different. Like, French culture is very special, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's I miss the kind of the crack, which is an untranslatable term, the Irish crack, which does not exist here in any shape or form. There is no translation at all for it in French, and things like that. I feel that's for those reasons that I say that I'm definitely not. I'm not 100% here.
Yeah. So what is the Irish crack?
The Irish crack is like it's so hard to explain. It's like when it's like being in the pub, chatting to your friends, just laughing at everything. There's a little bit of dark humor there. You know, you don't take yourself too seriously. Like, you know, it's just this real sort of looking at life in a funny way, and it's fun. It's real humor, but it's kind of got a little edge of darkness to it, and I love it. The humor side is hard to catch here. I don't know, maybe I'm being really unfair, but there's a special brand of humor in France that I've never fully, I think, got my head around.
Yeah, definitely. I think you really do have to go to school and grow up here to be part of it, in the stream of the humor.
They're really good at taking the piss out of other people as well. I think that's what it is. You know what I mean? You have to be part of the clan, because when if you're in that school system, you kind of know how how to poke fun. It's that kind of humor. It's fun poking humor, I think, you know.
Yeah, definitely. So
I'm going down really hard on them now. It's terrible.
Yeah, and certainly not in French. I mean, so there have been so many situations where something funny has been happening in front of me, and I'm just like, just kind of waiting for it to end. So get on with something that I can talk about. But, yeah. So did you grow up doing music? Was that part of your childhood?
Yeah, I grew up doing music very much like you as well. I mean, you grew up with the guitar, didn't you, Anna? You were
So I got
completely
that later on, but I grew up playing music and involved in music, my whole life. But it wasn't until after university that part of my story is that after university I moved to Portland, Maine. I had a temp job, and I cashed my first paycheck, and I went to the music store and bought my first guitar because that was the instrument I really wanted the whole time.
Oh, so you were really attracted to the guitar always?
Yeah, but I was doing other instruments, which was good.
Sorry, Hannah, I'm bringing you for a bit of a walk there because my phone is deciding to do something cheeky. So I'm putting in a portable charger. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Sorry, I was giving you flashes of all kinds of strange things there. Sorry. No, but my story is kind of similar to yours then, because it wasn't until after university as well that I decided to make it like a real thing, like something that I could take seriously. But I did grow up with music. Like I started playing piano when I was 5, which I'm eternally grateful to my parents for. Like,
yeah.
I know it sounds a bit cheesy or whatever, but I think it's the best gift you can give a child, the gift of introducing them to some kind of an art form. And
Absolutely.
I think, isn't it? And I think music is one of those brilliant things because it works so many sides of your brain. Like you've got the math side, you've got the creativity side, you've got the performance side. There's so many elements to it. And then if you're a singer, there's the language side. So or it's a language anyway in itself. But yeah, my parents were really encouraging. We all played music, but always at an amateur level. It was never something like, going to a conservatoire or thinking that this would be a career. But it was there, which was great.
Yeah, I agree with you in terms of that music is a part of a well-balanced education because it builds. Say you may start out with piano lessons and that may not be the thing that continues, but it can build, and it can build whether you get into electronic music or it can build into other art forms. But it definitely it's a important foundation, and there's no one path. Like you can end up going places in all sorts of different
absolutely
figures.
Like it's such a wonderful gift to give anyone. And once you introduce someone to music, it opens up, like you say, so many different things, and even the appreciation of it. I think if anyone who has attempted to learn an instrument really appreciates how difficult it is to do so, and you've so much more respect for those people who are able to jam over insane chord progressions like that. Doesn't come overnight. That's a lot of skill and training.
Yeah, exactly. So when you joined us or me, we were listening to Slow Exhale, and then we're listening to another thing. But Slow Exhale is from your record called Slow Exhale. And that's something that I think you recorded in France and released relatively recently. So what's the story of Slow Exhale? It's beautiful, by the way.
Oh, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, the idea, even the name, a couple of people ask about that, but it's that sort of idea that it should be a relaxed feeling, and the content, like the songs for me were very much about letting things kind of go, I guess. And that idea of just, like slow exhaling things out. It's also a really, I think, compared to the EP, it's kind of a mellow sound. Like it's more chilled. It's much less experimental. Yeah. So it fitted for me, the name, and I'm pretty proud of that song in terms of how it works as well. And I thought it'd be nice to kind of name the album after the song as well, and everything that it represents even outside of the song was important for me at the time.
And so what's your process? Do you sort of systematically write a record, or did you have a bunch of different fragments that you pulled together, or did you work with somebody else to pull the songs together?
Well, I work with my bass player a lot, but I always write the songs myself, and then I'll go to him and see what he thinks of the songs I've written, and he often does the arranging for me,
Okay.
because he's a trained jazz musician, which I'm not, and you know there's a whole wealth of expertise there that is great to have access to. But
Yeah.
my own like writing process is I write um all the time nearly, you know, like in little notebooks and whatnot, and I read an awful lot. I think like it was so funny. I was really astonished recently to hear like a big hero of mine is Joni Mitchell, and she said that she never really was a big reader, which I find so funny because I find her lyrics are so poetic, and you know they're so well, she's a painter, maybe that's what we're really seeing, but I was astonished because for me it's I get an awful lot of inspiration from books and poems actually.
Mhm.
And then yeah, I write and I go to the piano or some kind of an instrument. Sometimes it's a ukulele, sometimes it's a guitar. Actually, recently it's actually been a guitar, and I write a song, and then I go to the bass player with it and see what do you think, and then it kind of works like that. And what's happened so far is like everything. I don't set out to write a record, but actually they kind of fall into place quite naturally from the live concerts as well. You sort of see what
Right.
works together.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the same for you. Is it, Hannah? Do you have a similar process?
Yeah. So I was thinking about my process today. I'm not sure, like, it seems to be evolving over time, but definitely there's a certain point where you pause and you have a collection. But
Mm.
in the past, for the past few years, I've really been writing towards a collection. And I know when I'm done, like and my collection, the past two records that I've done have been short. They've been EPs. So I've one
Yeah.
with 7 songs, one with 8 songs. And I'm working on a collection now, and I have 5 songs that are all finished or close to being finished on my side. I haven't pulled my band into it yet, but on my
Yeah.
side,
Yeah.
I'll know when this collection is done. But I kind of feel like this is sort of like this is the 2020 collection, and it's interesting
Wow.
because the songs that I released earlier this year that I had written the year before were so optimistic and upbeat and kind of cheery, which was a new thing for me. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm definitely back to my old habits. These songs are a little bit dark, and
Brilliant.
complicated. So,
I love it. I love it.
so one of the things I'm kind of working on right now is trying to simplify things, and I'm trying to write in a way that's more approachable to more people. And I don't mean to write pop songs or whatever, but
Mm.
I sometimes am enchanted with really quirky, weird stuff, and I just think it blocks. It can be a block. Not everybody's going to understand it or take the time to think what is that about. And so I want to in my own writing be more specific and make it not simpler, but
Yeah.
clearer. That's so rather than because I lean towards surreal images and the surreal because that makes sense to me for sure.
Yeah.
I think very in a very surreal way. But
That makes a lot of sense to me. I think I'm really similar that way too. Like a lot of the images that I put in my songs, they're really strange and like it doesn't always make sense, you know? Makes sense to me, but
yeah,
like when people are looking for a narrative, like it's not very linear. And I know what you mean sometimes. I think that was a little bit in the back of my head for Slow Exhale as well. I wanted to sort of give people something that's I don't want to say simple either. It's not fair to say that, but something that's a bit more, dare I say, commercial even. You know what I mean? Something that's a bit more palatable. But I
yeah.
totally know. I get you.
The way I look at it is that more people can enter more easily. That that
Yeah.
there's but you definitely don't want to lose that thing that makes you interesting and that keeps you interested. So
That's the thing. And, you know, I think it is really important to bear that in mind as well. I think especially at the moment, you know, there's everybody is kind of on their last nerve at the moment, and you know, it's such a hard time, and so many of us have lost so much work, and you're
yeah,
just kind of like, well, if I can't make music for me, who are you making it for? Like, you have to make yourself happy first, you
Yeah.
know? You have to be honest and true to yourself. And, you know, because I think if we fall into that trap of going, I've done it definitely, wanting to please other people. It might be, you know, it can be anything. People you work with to, you know, different venues around Paris and everything, and you kind of want to do the right thing. And then actually you're just like, do you know what? You have to keep yourself happy and protect yourself. And then, you know, then then I think the people will come if they want to, you know, like, I think that they're the kind of people you want anyway to be listening to your music, right? Like, you want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not making music for everybody. So you want your music to find its audience, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you mentioned something earlier. I was kind of actually save this to the end of our conversation. So we're not at the end of our conversation, but you did mention that this is a really difficult moment for musicians, and certainly it is. I mean, it's really like when you've been making your living from playing out and performance, this is horrible. So I just wanted to give a little shout out, and I will mention this again at the end of our conversation. But if you are listening to our conversation and you are thinking Liv Monaghan is an awesome artist, you'd be correct. But go to her website, livmonaghan.music.com, livmonaghanmusic.com. I'll put the website in the conversation. And if you look at one of her menu items, support me on Ko-fi, is that what it is?
Yeah, exactly.
Can you tell me about that?
So it's a little bit like Patreon. You're probably familiar with Patreon, are you, Hannah? Yeah. So it's different in that you don't have to give money every month. It's basically a one-off donation. And the idea is that you spend the money that you would be spending on coffee on your favorite artist. So it's quite nice. And I mean, I've been really lucky actually with that. I set that up during the first lockdown because I was quite worried about my situation. But people were so generous, really amazing, and they really gave generously. I did some live Instagram gigs, but people like were donating outside of that context as well. But it is nice because I find with Patreon, it's a great platform, but some of the feedback I was getting that people felt it's kind of complicated when you have to, you know, commit to giving a certain amount each month. So it's quite nice that Coffee just gives that option of, you know, you can give like €2 or up to whatever you want as a once-off thing. And it's a lovely way to support someone without feeling the obligation to continuously do so. So that's been great. It's been great.
Yeah, cool. So have you experimented with Patreon at all? Did you?
You know what? Not at all. Like, I feel I kind of looked at it, like people were encouraging me to try it. So I did look at it before I set up the coffee site, because I thought, okay, it's important to start getting the head around these kind of things at the moment, because we don't know when we're going to really have our proper careers up and running again. And I thought it looked great, and I've looked at other people's like coffee or Patreon pages, and they look super. There is an awful lot of work in it too, so which is great, but it's a big upkeep, so it in itself becomes a full-time job, which is fantastic. But I just wasn't sure if I was there yet, in terms as well of the digital side. I think you need to have a pretty good like video sort of service to be able to show people your creative process. And again, I felt it's too much to take on at the moment. Everything is so mad, but it is great. It can really work for some people, and who knows, like I might end up down there at some point. You don't have a Patreon, do you, Hannah?
No, although I have been impressed with what people have been able to do with it, but it really is opening up. Like you said, it needs to be constantly fed. Like you really do. You are really offering something very specific in a sort of private, contained world. So it can't just be like on a whim. You really have to be on a schedule of creating content and creating events and showing up. And but it is one way to keep your fans close and to create a community. It's cool.
Absolutely. No, you're right. It is great. Yeah.
And so do you have a store also? Do you sell merchandise?
I have a store on Bandcamp for my music merchandise, and at the moment I just have my albums, my CDs in there.
Yeah.
So that's something that would be great. Again, I feel it's terrible to say this, but I'm like, oh, who wants another tote bag, you know? But
Yeah.
hey, sometimes, you know, those things are great too. I mean, I love the bands who do that.
You never know who wants another tote bag. You never.
Yeah, it's true, huh? Like I need to start, yeah, thinking more along those lines. But Bandcamp is great, and I do the little bit of merchandise I have, I sell in there. Do you have merchandise as well, Hannah?
I do. I sell it off of my website. Hannah
Great.
Judson.
Okay.
Hannah Judson. Yeah. So I and my records I sell from the website, and that's also something that requires upkeep. And I've
Mm.
experimented with different ways of keeping that going. But when I first met you, you were finding one of a kind antique pieces of
Oh
clothing and
yeah.
them. Are you still doing that?
Yeah. I still do that a little bit. I have a little Etsy store where I do that. So I love flea markets, and actually that informs an awful lot of my songwriting as well. Found
Oh,
objects, they sort of get me thinking and going, all the ghosts in the flea markets and in the objects, and then I create stories around them. But I did work in costume for a while in Ireland and a little bit here as well, so I have a big fascination with you know, definitely with costume design, but with old clothing and old objects as well. So I scour the flea markets in Paris for individual little interesting pieces, and then I sell them. So actually a couple of things that inspired songs now have homes in other parts of the world. I wrote a song called Dead Lady Cigarettes about this really beautiful cigarette case with there were still cigarettes inside, and it had a powder mirror. It was so beautiful and it was so perfect, and that lives in Japan now. So my
wow.
lovely little cigarette case, and I don't know if the person knows that there's also a song about it. I think I might have tried to tell her, but yeah, it's just so funny to me. I love that there's all these little, you know, fairy dust going around, and people might not know exactly what they're in possession of. It's quite nice.
That's very cool. I remember one of the first times that I spent time in Paris alone. So it was years ago. I was traveling. I was going somewhere, but I had a few days in Paris alone, and I stayed in a hotel, and I didn't quite know what to do besides go to museums. But I remember I had a Michelin guide, I think, and I looked up and I saw flea markets, and I was like, cool. So I took myself to the edge of town and spent a whole day going through flea markets, and I still have some things from that particular outing. But yeah, I'll always sort of remember that day. But there are really cool flea markets in Paris.
They're beautiful. Yeah, and I love the way that's such an event as well. You know, like the vide grenier, when people literally take all the crap from their attics and they sell it on the street.
Yeah.
And it's just wonderful. I think that's one of my favorite things about living in France, actually. There's a lot of stuff that gets me down, but the flea markets pull me right back up, and those vide greniers, I'm like, that's one of the reasons why I'm still here, baby. You know, they're great. They're
Yeah,
so
they are great.
magical. They're
And
fab.
in our little village where I live, there's one day a year. That we did not do this year, but there's one day a year where we have a vide grenier. Vide means empty for anyone listening. Vide grenier is your attic, so you empty your attic, and so it's organized by the town hall. It's very organized, and everybody signs up for a space on the main street that runs through the town, and it's so festive that day. Everybody's out in the street. People are talking to each other. It's not just a yard sale. It's
No,
absolutely,
it's
it's a,
magical.
it's a great day. Yeah.
It's a really great day. Yeah, it's wonderful. It's so wonderful. I really would recommend to people, if you're just, you know, when they start going on holidays here again, I think that's one of the best experiences, just to go to a vide grenier, you know, and it's like you said, people are so, you know, festive and jolly at them as well. It's great. It's really
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. So when you move on to your next destination, which you may know where it is or you may not know where it is, and you're looking back on these years in France, what are your best memories here? What do you have, like a snapshot memory, or like just some amazing thing that happened? Or?
I don't know if I have one single snapshot memory, to be honest. I think there's a kind of amalgamation of things that were really pleasant, you know. I will always remember like Paris for the fact that I really started to sing here, and you know, that was glorious. It gave me the space and, you know, the kind of the ear to, and it gave me, I think Paris gave me the space to be myself and to really, it's again sounds so cliched, but I think I accepted myself for the kind of strange artist that I am, and other people did too. I think that's one wonderful thing about the French. They are very tolerant of strange artists.
So where was your first gig in Paris?
Café Universel in the, actually, no, I tell a lie. You know where my first gig was? My first gig was at the Canal Saint-Martin,
Uh-huh.
in that one of those places actually where, unfortunately, there was the terrible terrorist attacks in
Yeah.
2015. I think it was Le Carillon. I think it was this place. That was my first actual, technically my first gig, and then it was Café Universel, which is still called Café Universel. I think it's got a different owner now, in the 5th arrondissement, and that's yeah, it's a proper jazz club. It's a tiny but very cute jazz club, and I met really beautiful people there. One of my best friends now is I met her through this club, another Irish lady musician. So yeah, that's a lovely memory. That place holds a lot of really nice, warm memories for me, definitely. And yeah, like I said, it's like an amalgamation of things, isn't it? And then all the little clubs and
Yeah.
the encounters, you know. Paris is all about that.
Yeah, definitely. About, yeah, meeting people, conversations, yeah, keeping the conversations going.
Absolutely.
My first gig when I moved here, when I first moved here, I wasn't sure if I was going, like if I was going to be continuing music or not, because I'd really been in
Right.
rock bands in Chicago, and I thought, you know, I don't know if that's what I still want to keep doing or how it's going to
Yeah.
go. But I did ship over. I sold like tons of equipment before we moved, but I did ship over a few amps and a few guitars, so I did have some material here. And then once I started writing some songs, I was like, okay, I don't know anybody. I know zero people in the music world in Paris. But I just started like looking in, I think it was probably in Lilo or whatever, like looking and seeing where people were playing,
Oh,
just
yeah.
learning the names of clubs and sending out. It was a platform that nobody uses anymore. I can't even remember what it's called anymore. But there was a music platform, and I just sending out I put a little thing together, sending out links, and I got my first gig. The guy called me here, and I answered the phone, and he booked a show, and I was like, oh my God, I just booked a show in France. I can't believe it. But it was actually at a Moroccan restaurant. Uh,
Oh, no way.
it was I think it was in the 11th, and it was a very unlikely place. But I promoted the heck out of that. It was going to be a really big show, and I had quite a few people come to that show. And I thought, okay, if I can book a show at a Moroccan restaurant, I can just keep doing this.
Yeah, it's really funny. It's like that, isn't it? Like you can play in very strange places here, and then you suddenly feel, do you know what? I'm the queen of the world. If I can play in these mad restaurants, like, you know, I'm fine. It's funny, but I can relate to that experience. It's trippy. I love it.
So that's a little bit about, yeah, the work involved in moving here, and then the sort of successes involved in moving here. Definitely, I do think sometimes if I had not moved to France, my life would certainly have been easier if I had stayed where I
Yeah,
was. It would have been easier. Things were set up. I knew where things were. I spoke the language more or less,
yeah,
the Chicago language. But what I've learned since I've been here is unquantifiable. It's just, I feel like my brain is a different brain now. I mean, just the layers of this culture of being positioned here and seeing the world from this position. I mean, from this
yeah,
geography. Um, it's been
yeah.
great.
I think that's fascinating. Kind of like, I mean, do you sometimes do you have any regrets at all, though? I mean, in terms of like, because that move was a huge move. you know,
It was.
from Chicago to here. And I understand as well, it's a lesser move, but it takes so much energy, and you lose time with that energy as well, you know.
Sure.
Do you ever feel, well, obviously you'd be a totally different person, but do you have any regrets? I know that you're very happy here, but are there any kind of grains of regret at all?
I would have to really think about that. But I think the answer is no, because when I did move here, it was with small children, and I really wanted to raise them here. And by here, I kind of mean in Europe. My plan was not to stay in Chicago with small children, and so I am so proud of myself as a parent. Nobody hands out awards. You don't get awards for being a good parent. You get called out on the floor when you make mistakes. People will let you know, but nobody's handing out an award. But I will, hand myself an award, because moving the kids here, raising them here, that's such a gift for them, and they both appreciate it. They both are fluent in French. They're older kids now. They're teenagers, and actually, I actually have a 12-year-old, so which happened very quickly.
You definitely don't look it.
Oh, thank you so much.
Impossibility.
The kids really are better for it, and they struggled too, like being sent to a school, where they were sort of thrown into a lot of situations, and then not getting parental backup, because I didn't know what was going on. Anyway, I think that it was what I had in mind for my family.
Yeah. Well, bravo. Seriously, that's a huge feat. I mean, it's one thing moving here on your own, like a solo person. It's a whole other kettle of fish moving a family here. That's really hard. That takes an awful lot of energy.
Yeah.
So, God, I just about got myself here. I'm just like imagining in like an alternative universe there where I would be bringing children. I can't. Sorry, it's just made me sort of reach for the gin again.
Well,
I'm like, oh, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, but if you have a goal, then you do it. So, but what I got good at was paperwork, as you can imagine. All the paperwork.
It's a nightmare, isn't it?
So when you moved here from Ireland as a European citizen, you just moved here. It was
I feel really bad for my American friends. There's no prefecture. There's nothing. I mean, they did make my life hell now for a while, because they kind of still accuse you of not being, well, you're not French. So that's already a big problem.
Right.
But I remember there were so many little ones where I'm like, they were trying to tell me that I needed a carte de séjour, which is like the permission to work in Europe when you aren't European, basically, isn't it? If I understand correctly.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I don't need a carte de séjour. I'm in the EU, I'm Irish. Yeah. And there were so many of them that would not understand this until you get the right person who has some understanding. But it's slow. Basically, it's slow.
Meaning they just thought you were in the UK, so
I don't even know what they thought, because back then, sure, the UK was still part of the party, But right. I mean, yeah, now sure it would be it's another story. But back then, sure, the UK, we were all pals. And I don't know what they thought. It was just really strange. Even when I'd go to the post office, they'd start like charging me insane amount of money, because they would tell me that Ireland is not in the EU. They'd be like, but Ireland isn't in the EU. I'd have to have these strange like random fights with the post office people. It was mad. So,
I had a weird thing at the post office the other day. I had to actually send an envelope to Alan, who's on this call, into the UK. And so it was a CD. He ordered a CD, and I was sending it. And I was standing at the counter, and they weigh it, and then they go to the computer and they look up to print out the stamp. And they were like, there's no UK on here. And I said, I gave him all sorts of options of things to try. And then he calls over somebody else. This is all happening. Our post office is inside our town hall, inside our mairie. It's all super local stuff. Calls over somebody else. They're looking at it. And so they're trying, and he was like, I'm so sorry, I don't know what to do. And I knew he was going to try to just give me the CD back and get me out the door, because he didn't know how to handle it. And I said, can you print out a stamp for Ireland? Just pretend it's for Ireland. And he was like, oh, but that went against his he didn't want to do that.
Oh, God.
So we'll see.
Fair play to him, a mad French Irish Republican. Like, you know, he was like, I'm not doing that. That's so funny though, Hannah. There, it's mad, isn't it? So it was going against his inner values anyway. He didn't want to send it to the UK.
Well, I mean, don't they? Geez, they're just printing out the stamp, right? I mean, it's not. I mean, the address is still the address.
Yeah.
So.
What was that about? That's bonkers.
My theory was it had something to do with Brexit, and they were updating their tariffs or something. That's what I think.
Probably, yeah. I think it's the post office. I mean, for people who have never lived in France, honestly, the post office is a whole other chapter. I think you need to do an interview just on a conversation just on the post office. I mean, it's mad. It's a whole other. It's Twilight Zone. Honestly, it's bonkers. But somebody told me recently that you're not allowed to send CDs apparently, but that's not true because I send my CDs all the time. I don't know. I think they make up different rules sometimes because I mean CDs are the one things that sure everybody's posting. I mean, look at Amazon. Everybody's. How do we?
Right. How do we do it? It has something to do with rights or artists. I don't know, but I do know that when I took this CD to the post office the time before, they were like, well, when did I set a CD? And then they gave me all this paperwork to do that it was an unusual amount of paperwork. And I was like, this isn't right. I took the whole thing home and I thought about it and I was like, I'm just going to try to send it as a letter. So I went back and tried again. And that's when there was no UK.
I mean, you need the patience of a saint, really, don't you? But it's one of those things. It's one of the things that you accept. In the same way that wine is cheap and very good, you have to accept the other side is the post office is mad.
Absolutely. And any given errand, and this is not just the post office; it's other things too. But any given errand might take a few times.
Oh,
you might get half of it done. You're like, well. And so when I first moved here, I had a very hard time with that you couldn't just go out and work off your list and get things done.
Yeah. Oh, no, there's none of that. It's funny. It's like, no, that doesn't happen.
Yeah. So the pleasures of being here, that's very funny. Do you know the American writer David Sedaris? He's a satirist. He's very funny. I anything he writes I read, but he was American. His husband is I think is British. I could be wrong now. I don't remember, but they lived in Paris for a while, and he's written some seriously funny things about everything we were just talking about and more. And one time when
I definitely have to check that out. I'd love that.
Yeah, he's very funny. But I do have one France memory of being at the prefecture of Moulins, near where I live, because as Americans, when we first moved here, every year the carte de séjour had to be, we had to start from the beginning every year. And so, and then after 5 years, then we had a 10-year visa, then other things. But I was in the prefecture waiting room just miles and miles of these plastic molded seats and, filled with people who are in that waiting room, waiting to deal with their citizenship, to deal with their, one thing or another, but it's all this reams of paperwork. And I was reading David Sedaris, who was writing about these exact same situations about doing the paperwork. And I don't know if you, as Americans, we had to have a physical when we moved here. We had to go to the doctor, to a very specific doctor in Paris, and have a complete physical to make sure that we didn't bring TB and other things into the country. But probably because you're European, you didn't have to do that. But
I definitely didn't have to. Oh, I'm telling you, Hannah, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be sitting here in my little tiny studio if they were going to subject me to that. You are so brave. Honestly.
It was just one of the things. There were so many different hurdles and everything. So he was writing about the exact office that I had been to, and he talks about how he was told he just got here. His French isn't that good. He goes into a waiting room. They're like, take off your clothes. He's like, he takes off his clothes, And then nobody came to get him. So he's standing in this waiting room with no clothes on. So he goes out to this other waiting room on the other side. Nobody's in it. He's got this stack of papers, of course. He sits down, he puts them on his lap. And then other people start coming fully clothed into this waiting room. They're coming in through other doors, and he wasn't supposed to take his clothes off in the first place. So, or something along those lines. But I was reading that in a prefecture waiting room with my number that said like 650, and they were on number 43. So I know I was going to be there all day, and I was laughing out loud. And my laughs were like echoing through the room. I was the only one laughing. No one else was talking to them at all. So that's my story of laughing.
Well, that's brilliant. Well, that's obviously the best way to do it, though, Hannah. Like, I mean, if you're going to do the whole prefecture thing, I think it's best to do it with a massive smile on your face, like preferably with laughter echoing, like, you know, through the rooms. It's the best way to do it. But you know, I have a lot of respect for you guys, because I think, my God, if I was subjected to all that, I don't think I'd stay. I mean, it's really hard. And I think if I was subjected to it, I'd probably be much slower to be banging on about wanting to leave as well, because it's much harder then. Do you know what I mean? It's a huge process if you have to go through all that. You have to really want to be here, I think.
Yeah. So
like, I think with a lot of my American friends, it's like that. They're kind of like, yeah, we're here because we really want to be here.
But they always say, like, don't give away your music, always sell your music, because people, if you have to work a little harder for something, you're going to value it more. So yeah, that's true. So maybe we like really value this.
Yeah, well, totally. I don't know. Fantastic, you know, that's terrific. And I mean, there is a lot to well, I think moving countries is already kind of semi-traumatic, but like when you're moving like that, and you know, you have to do the whole legal side to it, like it brings a completely different dimension and different level of stress as well, you know.
Different level of stress, but also different level of successes. A couple of years ago, I became a French citizen, and that was really, thank you. And I have to say, so it was an administrative detail to take care of, because it was something that made sense at the time. But when I actually got the letter, well, again, so you go through this huge process and then nothing, you don't hear anything. And then a letter came, and the letter didn't say, congratulations, you got it. It didn't really say one way or the other anything, but I was like, I think I've got it. And it was a very, very vague letter. So I think I got it. But then when I actually got my passport and and it was really happening, it was more than just an administrative detail. I am so grateful to live here and to be French.
Well, that's fantastic. Honestly, like, that's such a lovely thing to feel, you know, like so happy and so part of something. I think that's wonderful. That's glorious. Like, I mean, that's all you can ask for in life, isn't it? To be like, I you know, because you're in your baskets, as the French say. You know, you're real comfortable here. Like, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, well, it's been so nice to spend this time with you and have some drinks with you. And
it's lovely
doing this in person. And so,
definitely.
It was great to hear more about your story, and to, you know,
you too, Hannah,
talk about process and all that stuff. And I feel like we just started to unpack all these important topics. So there's a lot more to keep talking about.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. It was a real pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for being willing to sort of do this with me, because for me this is a blast, and it's really
it's fantastic. I'd agree to this. Is fantastic. I mean, it's a wonderful excuse to like start shaking the cocktails, you know, and have a little chat. So it's
exactly.
Terrific.
So keep me posted when you've got like Instagram gigs, or like whatever it is whatever you're doing. Keep me posted. So
thank you. I will.
So Liv Monaghan, hopefully I think I put your
I just put Liv. I'm so silly. I only put Liv, and I'm on my phone here, so I'm probably, I don't know if I can see everything, but it's Liv Monaghan. Sorry, guys, I should have written like my surname after my name as well, but
So I also, before you go, I want to post so I don't know if you can see because you're on your phone. Can you?
No, I'm so, yeah, that's the thing. I'm sorry, I can't see. I
Oh,
can't see
you don't see the chat because there are people chatting and stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I can't see the chat at all. Oh, no.
So
Oh, I can't see it. Oh, sorry. I totally missed that. Sorry. Can you still hear me? I'm like touching my microphone now. I'm still
yeah,
there, am I, Hannah?
but I want to find you on Bandcamp and post that too. Bandcamp is great. Bandcamp.
Bandcamp's amazing. And just to tell everybody, I didn't know that I can't see who's there, but do you know they do that amazing thing, Hannah, on the first Friday of every month where they waive all their fees?
Yeah.
So it's a great time if you want to support someone that you like or that you're a bit interested in. And again, there's nothing, we all like, when you get that notification in your emails that someone has bought a record, like it means so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lovely. It's really nice.
So Bandcamp, and then you also, what's the other place where you also sell your stuff on?
My objects and clothes on Etsy. So my little Etsy shop is called Alto Figaro, and it's I sell vintage.
So do you mind if I post it? So Alto Figaro,
Yeah.
Parisian menswear and women's wear. Okay, so excellent. So post that also. So be sure to support your artists and be sure to check out Alta Figaro, check out Liv's Bandcamp and her website, because there's all sorts of groovy stuff on the website too.
Oh, thanks, Hannah. Well, same goes for you. Thanks so much.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. This was a pleasure. So this was day one. Today was October 30th. Tomorrow's Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get through November. In November, just as a closing note, one of the things that I really like about the American experience is Thanksgiving. It's one holiday that I really like. It's completely non-denominational. It's for everybody, and it's a day of like being together, and it's a day of giving thanks, which I think is a very great thing to do on any day. So I always look forward to that. And traditionally, it's the third Thursday of November. This year, it's the fourth Thursday for some reason. But to me, that's what November brings, is a day of thanks. And so I'm going to try to figure out some way to celebrate that here.
Oh, definitely.
We're going to get through this month, and we're going to get through this period of time because we have no other option. We're going to get through it.
Yeah, onwards and upwards. Well, thank you so much, Hannah. And I'll be raising a glass to you on American Thanksgiving as well.
All right. Well, we'll stay in touch.
Definitely.
All right.
Definitely.
Take care. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you. Thanks, Hannah. Bye.
Bye.
I don't know how to get out of it, but I'm like,